Hello, sweet friend. My name is Micah, and in this video, I would like to work on some journal pages with you, and in particular, I want to focus on some lettering and just share my lettering process with you. I hope that sounds fun, and yeah, we can just keep each other company. So I've been really into this kind of lettering lately. So sometimes I just do it without any color, just the outline, I guess, and sometimes I add some watercolor to it. I've found this to be really fun and relaxing and very versatile. Here I actually wrote it with watercolor. So yeah, it's both pretty and very soothing to do. And yeah, I just want to share that with you. And I have already, oh, here's another example. Like I said, I've been doing it pretty much on every page. It's just one of those things that not only helps you put fun things on the page, the process in and of itself is so grounding. And I talked about that in my last week's video, all about easing anxiety. Yeah, it's so grounding. It really brings me into the moment. And I've found that that is a great entry into a journaling session. Like, it really puts me at ease and like I just arrive, if that makes sense. So yeah, I've been doing it a lot. So the pages that I would like to work on with you is this, which doesn't look like much on the screen right now. I already penciled in some lyrics from Pearl Jam from the song In My Tree, because they were very fitting, and I want to work on this with you, add some watercolor, outline the lettering, but then I also want to start on today's page, because then I can show you how I start with the pencil lines and just talk you through some of the things that that run through my head while I'm doing the lettering. So yeah, I hope this is relaxing, informative, creative, something of that sort. But yeah, because this is gonna have to dry a little bit in the meantime, I think we're gonna start adding a watercolor background for this lettering and then jump to the other page and then actually get to drawing some letters is what I'm thinking. So the lyrics are up here in my tree, newspapers matter not to me. I'm trading stories with the leaves instead. And I did cut out one line because it didn't fit. Sorry, Pearl Jam. I had to edit these lyrics. But since it's all about, yeah, tranquility, tree, leaves, I indicated some leaves too that I want to draw in. But yeah, maybe we can do some color in the background. And then, oh yeah, maybe I can show you. The idea is to do it like this. So I basically tried to keep the inside of the letters white, and then just did this very abstract blobs of watercolor in the background. And I really like that look. It's very whimsical, and also it's fun to just have colors blend into each other. So, yay. And so, yeah, let's just try out some different greens. And I decided to work with my water brush rather than a quote-unquote real brush and water from a jar, because I have found that sometimes this leads me to use less water or make my paints less watery. And that, of course, is a bonus when working with this crinkly Tomoe River paper. And so for these sort of abstract watercolor backgrounds, usually I just try to have colors that are very light, especially at the beginning. And then what I'm trying to do right now is to just create all kinds of different greens, just different tones of green, because I think that might be fun to have bleed into one another. To not have a lot of different kinds of colors in the background, because it's also a lot of text, I guess. Oh, I already squirted some color on here. That's okay. Alright, the one thing about this brush is that it might take a little bit longer to actually fill up the page, but we'll see. And then maybe do I want to... Sometimes it's a nice idea to put the pencil board underneath the page, just because then the following pages don't get so wrinkly and soaking up all the water. And since we want to work on that other page, I guess I could also play around with, I mean, I don't have to cover the entire page. There could be still some white pages in between. What do you, or white space, not pages. What do you think? Yeah, okay, this one leaf will have a brown spot there. Yeah, that's the... Maybe this brush isn't the best way of going about it, but... And then maybe just some that is a little bit more... Or almost... I guess this is almost blue at this point. Yeah. This is the process. Oh, and now I'm going over the letters. I know I said that about leaving the letters white like I did in the other one. But you know what? Maybe because these are so soft, maybe that's fine. And then we can just make sure that the lettering, that we use darker colors for the lettering. I guess with so many letters too, such a long quote, maybe that isn't such a good idea either, to try and keep them white. If this was like a professional piece of artwork, you could of course use, oh, what is that called in English? I'm not sure. There's stuff where that you can apply to watercolor paper, and then the color won't adhere to it, and then you can rub it off afterwards. You could do that, and that would help. We can also, do we want to add some gray? No, more like a beige would be good. And I found that I can make a really good beige with this lavender color and this vanilla color. Yeah, and maybe we can add just a hint of blue to that. Yeah, so this is just a really relaxing way of doing pages, or doing parts of pages. And you get to play around with your watercolors, which is nice. Always love that. Okay, I think I'm gonna leave it at that because I'm a little afraid that this is... Yeah, this is very, very wet, for sure. So, yeah. I like that though. It looks very light on camera right now. I'm sorry, I hope you can see enough. Maybe we can bring in some darker greens in here for those leaves, but we can also paint over top of it. Oh, and see, I don't know, I can bring you closer. Now that I made it so wet, the paper gets a little bit more transparent the wetter it gets, and so now the writing from the page on the opposite page is coming through. Did we activate the light? No. Okay, we did not activate the ink, so at least this is not now feathering and bleeding all over the place. But yeah. Oh well. I mean, you know, it is what it is, I guess. And if we wanted perfection, we could do this on a separate piece of paper, like watercolor paper or something like that. So this is very wet. I'm gonna try and see if I can still work on this page, and I'm gonna zoom you in a little bit. Maybe like so. And now I can show you sort of how I approach making the actual letters. And to start out with this kind of lettering, I mean, it's obviously just one way of doing lettering. There are so many fun ways to hand letter. I, for example, have never learned to do the fancy brush lettering where you use pressure with a brush pen or a brush, kind of almost like calligraphy-like. That's not really my thing. I just like drawing the letters. So this whole thing is based just on my regular cursive writing, and then I just make it fat. So let's letter out the word Friday. And so how I would start to get it sort of fitting into the space that I want it to, I just start out by really lightly writing the word like I would in cursive. So Friday. Yeah. That's a good way to put that on the page. And you can't see anything. Okay. Let me use a little bit more pressure than I would if I was just doing this for me, and I'm going to use a darker pencil with the Palomino. Okay, let's do this again. So, in darker, I just write out the word in just my regular cursive. So I know how it fits. And now what I do is to just fatten it up. So this would have an inside, and then this would have thickness to it. This would have thickness to it. And so I'm just making my way around, as if the one part of what I've already put out is part of the thickness or the medial line, if that makes sense. I guess it doesn't, I don't know. But of course this looks way worse doing it with such dark lines to sketch out. Usually I would make this really light because then, you know, easier to work with, but I want to show you. And I think part of why I find this so soothing is because it's based on my cursive writing. There's something really swoopy about these letters that feels really nice. And I think I've seen this kind of like thicken up cursive writing in this way. I think I've seen Erin Ware do something like that. I think that's where the inspiration is coming from. I'm subscribed to her Patreon, and she's also done video tutorials on some of her lettering. She does amazing lettering too. So yeah, definitely recommend. I'll have her linked and her Patreon linked below, and you can check out. So yeah, I'm just making my way around. And then what I do pay attention to also, not just the thickness, but in the writing itself, is what, not only what the shape looks like that the thickness is always more or less the same, but I also pay attention to the negative space. So negative space, if you're unfamiliar, would be, for example, this space right here between the A and the Y. And this, for example, is a really nice shape in between there. and it actually mirrors the way the Y is shaped, with this sort of like slightly less angular side on this side and then curving it a little bit more on this side. Like, that's really interesting. It's not like a same thing on both sides. It's a little angle like that. And then I repeat that kind of negative shape here in this lower part. The inside of the F is kind of similar. It has a similar vibe to it. Same here with between the R and the I, or this shape here between the I and the D, or the inside of the D. Everything is slightly tilted, and these negative shapes have a sort of asymmetrical thing going on. That just makes it, I think, more interesting. And it seems like my cursive writing goes in that direction naturally anyway. So yeah, that's something to play around with, I guess. And that's where I always think that, of course, we want to be mindful of where we find inspiration. But, you know, look around on Pinterest, look at some, I mean, there's a bunch of hand lettering books, but also children's books sometimes have really fun lettering that you can copy. And since our hands often do our own thing anyway, especially when it comes to writing, because we're so used to making certain marks and a way of holding the pen, that I always think there is some level of your personal touch that comes in naturally. Now, of course, you know, we still want to be mindful and respectful, but if you're just doing headers in your own journal, I don't see why you can't look on Pinterest what some other people do with their lettering and incorporate that. Maybe I'm wrong about that, and I could see how different people have different opinions about that, but yeah, that's my take. Okay, so now I made it go away again. Something that with this one I was gonna try out, like, this is the more standard way where I just go around and pretend everything, almost as if you made it out of Play-Doh, where everything is just sort of connected like this. Oh, and by the way, here I activated the ink with some water after to make it have a little bit of a background. Not sure I like that look, but you know, something to play around with. Something I have not tried yet is to take some colored pencils and just fill in the thickness of the letters and not do an outline at all. I'm not sure if that's gonna work. And so let's just go for some colors that I think would go with the opposite page. So some blues, a purple, maybe we can go in with a fun pink. That's nice. And I guess we could do a dark green. A black could be kind of fun. Ooh, okay. A little bit of an 80s color palette going on, but So then the question is, do I want each letter to be one color? No, I think I'm gonna have sections of the letter be different colors. So this is a life experiment, and that may or may not work out. You'll be the first to know. I think I've mentioned these before. These are the Derwent drawing pencils. They're just so waxy that they're really nice on Tomoe River paper. I find most colored pencils kind of unpleasant on Tomoe River paper because it's so slick. They feel really scratchy, and they don't deposit a lot of color, which makes sense because I guess they need the tooth of the paper to deposit the color. Ours are kind of tricky. If you do lettering, do you have certain letters that you find harder or less fun to do? I certainly have some letters that I'm more fond of than others. Kind of interesting that way. I always so my name, Micah, obviously starts with an M, and I always thought M's were kind of tricky to do. They often take up a lot of space. Yeah, kind of like that. I wish the pink was a little bit more, even more vibrant in your face. But this is a polychromos. So the Derwent drawing pencils only come in these earthy tones, which is really nice. It's a really nice palette, but it, yeah, I wish they made some other colors, some more regular colors. I wish they had more to choose from there. I wish I had brought in the blue somewhere in here too. That's not missing, kind of. But yeah, you get the idea, right? This is kind of, you just work your way around, and I could see you could still, I guess, go around and give this either an outline or some a shadow. Shadows can be really nice to add to your lettering. Makes it sometimes a little bolder and helps it stand out more. I think a good example of that is right here. This was just written out in the outline, and then I added some light shading to that. I'm not the best at figuring out where a shadow would fall. I often have to hold my hand here as if I was holding a flashlight, and then I know, okay, so then this side would have shadow, this side would have shadow. So there's a little tip if you struggle with that too. And often my illustration style is pretty flat, so yeah, I don't often do a lot of, you know, three-dimensional shadow shading types of things. So yeah, but this is fun, I guess. I don't know why I've never done the filling in the letters like that, but that's the nice thing if you're, for example, new to lettering. That's the nice thing about trying one way of lettering over a course of time, because there can be quite a lot of fun in just how many different ways can I come up with in making letters, or make this lettering look different, or work for my style, work for my pages. You can play around with the angling of the letters. So here, for example, I stayed pretty straight, but this kind of can also be fun if you just loop it around and make it off center. That can be really nice. Yeah, all kinds of things. Lettering, I feel like, can be really cool if you make it super big. Maybe even go across 2 pages. That could be fun. If you're not in a daily journal like this, or I mean, you could still do it if it's like a weekend or a trip and both pages have sort of a similar subject matter. That could be fun. But yeah, all kinds of stuff. And I just think that lettering is nice in the sense that it gives you a similar creative outlet and a similar soothing thing that drawing does, but we're so much more familiar with letters, and so if you don't draw a lot, this could be a way to, yeah, engage in something similar without feeling like now you have to learn anatomy and perspective and all those kinds of things. You can just pay attention to the shape of the letters. Okay, I think that turned out pretty cool. Yeah, I didn't expect to like this color palette so much, but this is kind of fun. It's coming up a little lighter on video than it does look in real life, but yeah, that's nice. And again, you know, the Tomoe River paper is not the greatest with colored pencil, but I think that works. So yeah, let's see where we're at with our watercolor. Oh yeah, that lettering really came through there, or not, it didn't come through, it just, again, there's something that happens if you wet this paper this much, that just, yeah, I don't know, I don't even know. Okay, so now I would just go in and darken up the letters. I'm just having a thought. So I was gonna go in with ink to draw up the letters, but I'm now realizing that sometimes if you have put down watercolor, the ink will also feather, or will at least appear a lot wider in line width than it did beforehand. So that's a little bit of an issue. So I wonder if we should go in with Tombow markers. Or what could be really cool is to do a sort of negative painting technique, where now this would be the lightest layer and we would go in darker around each letter and carve out the letters. That would be really pretty. It would also take the longest. Gotta think about that. Okay, I decided to do it just like I did with that other big quote, where I just go around the letters with some colored pencils. I hope this is gonna work, because again, here I left the letters, the inside of the letters white, which I didn't do here, but maybe choosing some darker colors and some contrasting colors to go around will work. Also, some of this lettering is pretty small, so I hope these are not too thick. If this outlining doesn't work, I can always fill in the letters and make them stand out that way. And so yeah, I'm not sure if we're gonna do all of this together, since that might take some time. Maybe, oops, I was trying not to do that. Maybe I'll do parts of it so you can get the gist of what I'm doing, and then I'll show you the end result. But yeah, I have been really liking using colored pencils. There's just something very nostalgic about using colored pencils, just from childhood. Oh my god, I did it again. I hate when that happens. I know I made that part of the letter. Okay. Yeah. Just really like the texture, and it's especially fun if you have colors like these where you know, it feels so rich in terms of the way the color goes down. And of course the thickness of the tip and how small the lettering is. I'm gonna have to be careful now. I think parts of these letters are so skinny, I'm gonna lose part of that. If I'd known that I was potentially gonna do this, then I could have made some of it a little thicker. And then I guess now I'm doing just sort of every letter is a different color. With the other one, I made some of it blend into each other. Maybe I can do that, but I guess this is just for time's sake. But yeah, I want to be careful not to make it look too, I don't want to say childish, but yeah, maybe I can do some more blending. Then it doesn't have that sort of choppy look. And I must say, I did the pencil line so light, and with the watercolor over top, I'm having a little bit of a hard time seeing what I did. Having to estimate. Yeah, here the polychromos would probably be a little bit better because they have a finer tip. Do you work with colored pencils in your journal? Do you do a lot of lettering? Or are you here because you want to do more lettering? I don't know. I don't want to do one bright color and then blend into another bright color, so maybe I'll just choose a color that's more similar to the pink. This is not really premeditated. I rarely plan out, for example, the colors. Again, it's just part of the wanting this experience to be really soothing and in the moment, and just responding to what's happening on the page, if that makes sense. And you know, you can obviously customize that to what you want. If that makes you feel too I don't know, uneasy, then of course you can change it up. Yeah. That brown really stands out, but maybe we can, once we start working that in here as well, it's gonna be fine. And so, yeah, lyrics is really fun to put on a page. On this day, nothing in particular happened, and I've been thinking about this song and how much I relate to the sentiment these days, to just wanting to sit in a tree and be, you know, cozy up there and trade stories with the leaves and not having to worry about anything else. As far as I know, Eddie Vedder wrote this when he got overwhelmed with his fame. So very different reason behind these lyrics, but I feel they're fitting for nowadays, no matter that specific origin story, which I guess is just true of any good writing. If you take it from really personal experiences, and you can make it universal because there's something honest in it. And that's another thing and again, I talked about that in my last video as well, is where I've found it really comforting to copy quotes into my journal. I'm not sure I like where this color palette is going, to be honest. It's maybe a little bit more colorful than I had envisioned, but here we are. Again, this is more about the process than the final result, which I guess is true for most journal pages for me anyway. I mean, of course, I like to make them look a certain way, just because that's fun to try. But at the end of the day, this is not a finished piece of artwork. This is more about relaxing and getting in the zone. And in that way, journals are both a product and a process, or a verb. You know, it's not just about the finished book full of memories, it's also about the act of sitting down and doing these things. If that makes sense. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna keep going with my letters here, and then I'm gonna show you the end result. All right, be right back. And here it is finished, and not my favorite. I gotta say, I think the colored pencils were not quite the right choice of material. They were just a little too thick, given how small some of these letters are and how I was going around it and outlining it, giving even more thickness to the letters to begin with. So I should have, yeah, that should have occurred to me maybe. But, you know, like I said, this is just a journal page, and I've learned something through this. So, you know, there you go. And I do like how these colorful leaves turned out. So I count that as a win. So you win some, you lose some. There's that. But I still had a fun time doing this. But yeah, I think I was, especially given the lyrics, I was more looking for something soft like this. Yeah, I just really like how this one turned out. But again, like, I wrote so much bigger, so sometimes it does matter what materials you choose to do something. But then I'm also so glad that we tried out this. I think this turned out really fun. I'm probably gonna do more like this in the future, where I go in with the colored pencil. Yeah, really fun. But since you have been so kind and staying with me all throughout this video, I'm gonna share with you a very old sketchbook with some lettering. just I don't know, just for fun. This fell into my hands the other day, and this is my first sketchbook / journal that I ever finished. This is 16 years ago, so this is from 2009, and even back then I really liked figuring out some lettering to go along with my drawings and with my journaling. And so here, for example, I was practicing how to sketch toothbrushes, of all things. Like, why were you drawing toothbrushes? But I was inspired by these shapes in the toothbrushes and tried to come up with some lettering that had a similar aesthetic. So this spells brushes. It's, yeah, I mean, you know, that's a way to spend, you know, a half hour to an hour, maybe more. Back then that probably took me longer than that. And then here on the second page, or on the following page, I drew some roses and tried to come up with some lettering that I felt like went with it, with these like curlicues all around. And again, like trying to match some of the shape language of the roses that I saw. And oh yeah, this was our old family dog, just spelling out her name, and then trying to find words to go with each letter and writing something about the dog, our dog. Yeah, so, you know, this is just other sketches. Maybe we can go through this at some point, but yeah, just already was playing with lettering. Oh yeah, this is so cute too, this Eeyore. That's probably like a lettering style I saw in a book of mine or online somewhere, and thought it would match Eeyore. Yeah, so lettering is just fun. So I hope that was fun to look at. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing this time with me. I hope this video was inspiring, relaxing, informative. I don't know. I always like having your company. It really does feel like company, even though I'm just talking. Technically, I'm just talking to the microphone and to the camera, but it does feel like you're here with me, and it is quite a lot of fun. Let me know what you thought about this lettering and about this video, because maybe we can do similar things in the future. We could try different lettering styles together, or I can go more in depth about what I'm thinking about when doing the lettering or when choosing lettering, those kinds of things. So yeah, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts, as always. So yeah, again, thanks so much, and until next time, happy journaling.